Good day and welcome to back to my channel. I'm Lawrence DeMetrius, your host, and in this video, we'll be looking at Eusebius's Ecclesiastical History and Intimate Review Part 7 by yours truly, Lawrence DeMetrius. Now, it's just one of many intimate reviews available at my website, lawrencedemetrius.com, where there is also an array of original praise and worship songs for your spiritual enrichment. Again, that's lawrencedemetrius.com. Go and visit today. But right now, we'll jump right into today's review. Book 10 is entitled Constantine and Peace. Eusebius writes about the final great conquests which led to the ultimate dismissal of legal persecution against Christians in the Roman Empire. The words of Enoch are fulfilled in regard to the fate and weaponries of war and of those who create them. In 324 AD, early Christians considered prophecies of Jesus Christ fulfilled, with exception of his second advent. In actuality, their time marked the beginning of the end, while many grand cathedrals were being restored or built in honor of Yahweh and his Christ. Eusebius refers to the true temple of God, which is the renewed spirit of born-again believers. Eusebius glorifies Jesus Christ as the great mediator and intercessor of born-again believers. Eusebius writes about the imperial decrees, such as the copy of imperial ordinances translated from Latin, written in 313 AD, which gave freedom of religion to all Roman citizens, both Christians and paganists alike. Per Apostle Paul, Yahweh worshipers are not to argue and debate with those who practice other belief systems. They are to be respectful of one's religious preference. We see that at 2 Timothy 2, verse 24. The elect are only to expose and denounce all that bear the name of Christ, but denounce him and his true teachings. Right? True believers must keep in mind that all who are predestined to become sons of Yahweh and brethren of Christ will at their appointed times be redeemed by him. All others are likened to those who perished in the great flood of Noah's day and will with Lucifer inherit the second death. Eusebius notes that Yahweh bestowed certain graces upon his teachers so as to help expose those who were not of or sent by him. Apostle Paul advises that the Holy Ghost only demonstrates his power in support of the testimony of Jesus Christ and those who publish it. We see that at 1 Corinthians 2, verse 4. We also see it at Romans 10, verses 14 through 17. He reports that it was during this time of Jubilee that it became custom for clergy persons not to be charged customary taxes by the government, and that's still prevalent today. It was also established that affairs of the church be handled separately from those of secular affairs. In all things, Yahweh was honored first, then those of his ministers who were worthy of high recognition by both church and secular government officials. He writes about the final combats between Constantine and his co-governor Licinius, who later resumed paganism. Book 10 Book 10 concludes with Emperor Constantine's great rule and glorification to the Lord for his providence and establishing Christianity in his realm and throughout the whole world. Now, there was the Council of Nicaea, and this portion of my review of Eusebius's work derives from the work of Reverend Isaac Boyle, D.D., entitled A Historical View of the Council of Nicaea. It appears in Eusebius's Ecclesiastical History, complete and unbridged, new updated edition, translated by C.F. Cruz. We see that on pages 383 through 428 of the work. Now it reads, the Council of Nicaea was a 30-day convention in 325 AD that convened in Nicaea, Bithynia, which is present-day Turkey, from June 13th to July 13th. It can likely be considered the first major international convention of Christian leaders. It was initiated and funded by Emperor Constantine. During these events and times, one's spiritual maturity, experience, and personal sacrifice for and in Christian ministry, academic degree, and character were highly recognized. However, the highest of regard was proof of one's devotion to Yahweh and his Christ per personal character and persecution due to their devotion to the Christian faith. Up to this time in history, it was clear that the primary mission of Christian leaders was to go and spread the divine gospel all over the world, which was actually fulfilled by Christ's original apostles and Christian leaders who preceded them during the first 300 years after the Lord's ascension. As in ancient times, so too is it in the latter days that the ministry of divine iconoclasm can be met with great opposition. We see that at Matthew 5, verses 11 and 12. After Constantine defeated his co-ruler Licinius in AD 323, he implemented laws that preserved and promoted acceptance of Christianity and freedom of religion for all. As it relates to the Council of Nicaea, several major views were discussed. However, there were issues that needed absolute resolve as they were causing great discord within Christian communities throughout the world. One such issue was the argument regarding the existence of a triune Godhead. There was the argument of Alexander, who at the time, this was Bishop Alexander, who at the time was the Bishop of Alexandria, Egypt. He fathered a creed which taught one God who manifested himself in three modes, not three individual persons. Alexander's creed admonished Christians to embrace the unity of the Godhead as a representation of the oneness of Yahweh. There were other bishops who shared the same view, but applied unique twists to their creeds. Nonetheless, at the Council of Nicaea, all such creeds were officially deemed erroneous and renounced as anathema or accursed, according to the teachings of Jesus Christ and his original apostles. Upon presenting scriptural proof, the Christian bishops who opposed these creeds agreed that the most appropriate manner and word in which to describe the nature of Jesus the Christ was consubstantial. This is to say that the nature of Christ is of the same substance, essence, and nature as Yahweh. However, because the word consubstantial was not written in the Holy Scriptures, it was rejected by the bishops who supported the creeds that were deemed heretical. Nevertheless, this reasoning was overruled because this characteristic of Christ is clearly noted in his teachings and that of his original apostles. In response to the faulty reasoning, those who supported the sounder Christian teaching reiterated that there was also no scriptural founding for the heretical creeds. In addition, evidence of the consubstantial nature of Jesus Christ is noted in the book of Enoch 1, which we will be reviewing. It is which is the first of all divinely inspired writings to teach of Yahweh and his Christ. In heaven, Christ was known as being coexistent with Yahweh as his word. Apostle John, the one that Jesus loved, clearly expounds upon the divinity of Jesus Christ, his nature, and relationship to Yahweh as his coexisting word and son. However, Christ did not become a son until he became a mortal. All right. And there's your scriptural references there, review them. This was necessary in order for him to become the source of salvation for all mortal spirits. Yahweh, who is indeed God the Father, required Christ, who is the Word, and God the Son, to take on mortal nature. Thus, in the nature of his brethren, Christ was perfected as the propitiation for their sins. It was by mortal nature he was made flesh, blood, and spirit, the first begotten Son of God. No other being in heaven or earth was given this unique nature. Mortals who are graced with the power to become sons of God are his adopted sons, heirs, and co-heirs with Christ. They are being spiritually conformed by the Lord to the image of Jesus the Christ. We see that at Romans chapter 8, verses 14 through 18 and 28. The second major issue addressed at the Council of Nicaea was when and how to commemorate Christ's resurrection. The third major issue was canonization of the Holy Scriptures, which was the process of determining the authenticity of letters written by the original apostles of Christ. The fourth major issue was marriage for Catholic priests. Christians were not the only philosophers who attended the Council of Nicaea. Pagan leaders also attended the council in an effort to discover loopholes by which to discredit the Christian faith. Emperor Constantine was clearly convicted that the ancient text written by divine inspiration is the primary resource that discloses the true nature of Jesus the Christ. Apostle John writes that sound teaching concerning this subject can always be confirmed by comparing a spirit, for example, a doctrine, to that of Jesus Christ. We see that at 1 John 4, verses 1 through 4. When this is efficiently practiced, unity of mind among the brethren of Christ will remain healthy worldwide. Emperor Constantine did what he could to protect the reputation of the church, as with the erroneous teachings of Bishop Alexander and Arius, so too can all false Christian teachings be deemed anathema or accursed because they are not founded in the pure teachings of Christ or his original apostles. It is proper to maintain this practice as it protects those of the household of true Christian faith. Antichrist's teachers thrive on weak-minded people who lack the skill of critical thinking, especially in spiritual matters. During early Christendom, it was of utmost importance to true Christian fathers to guard their minds and that of their students against erroneous Christian teachings. Although Jesus Christ does teach non-tolerance of ill judgment toward others in general, he is quite clear about a true born-again believer's personal responsibility to identify, expose, and avoid erroneous Christian teachings being promoted within Christian communities. In addition, Christians are admonished to know who labor among them. We see this at 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 12. And there you have it. This is part 7 of the review of Eusebius's ecclesiastical history. Again, you can see this review and get other reviews like it at my website, lawrencedemetrius.com. You can also enjoy my debut album entitled Songs from Heaven, Volume 1 for your spiritual upliftment. And I thank you for joining me through the 7-part mini-series of Eusebius's Ecclesiastical History and Intimate Review by Lawrence Demetrius. And I'll see you in the next review. God bless.